You need to clean out your drawer. Please follow the rules, sir.
Thank you, Adam. All right, let's do this again. Good. Call this meeting to order, Finance Committee meeting, August 15th, 2022. Man, we've said the pledge already. We'll forego that. Call to order. Welcome all the members. And next on our agenda is a report from the mayor. Mayor Davis, you are recognized if you need.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Let's see, the latest credit card report as I have it. Fire department used it 6 times. Once it was used locally at a gas station. Assessor used 4 times, all good. Sheriff used 6 times, all good. County mayor didn't use it. EMA used 5 times, all good. Any questions?
Any questions for the mayor on the credit card report? Seeing none, Mayor?
If you recall, probably in our last finance, it's been so long, I'm not sure, but I think it was the last one. We were doing end of the year amendments. We had to do an amendment to put some money in a phone line because we said that they were charging us more than was budgeted, and we needed the amendment to get the bill caught up to date, and we had requested a credit. The requested credit was April the 20th. And we got the email back on July the 13th saying that they have credited our account $7,855. So just to report back to you, we did get the credit, but that gives you the timeline of why we were needing the amendment. Follow me?
I do. There was a dispute.
Requested in April and got it in July.
Yeah.
Which is fairly quick for them. I'm sure you saw this in the paper, but I'm going to point out because some of those people that just left accuse us of not addressing it. It's been addressed several times in the last year, but after going $16,000 over budget last year, the County Election Commission concedes it might go over budget again this fiscal year because it remains understaffed. They're not understaffed, they just don't have funding for the staff that's over there on a daily basis. So follow it, folks. I've brought it to your attention in the past. Don't say it hasn't been brought to your attention. One other thing, somebody mentioned Trustee Smith here a minute ago. This ought to go to him, and he should be here asking for it, but each 4 years at this time, we have to do a bond for the trustee. It's nothing new, every 4 years. We have a copy from the ones that have it now, which is McIntyre Insurance Incorporated. They've combined, I'm not sure what they're called now. But anyway, we at Keystone Bonding and Surety are proposing the Treasurer's Public Official Bond for Michael J. Smith of Cleveland. The bond will appear on Liberty Surety paper. It's an A-rated company. The proposal is for $4,589. The proposal for surety of $4,589,926 is a premium of $8,530 annually. This is never budgeted by anyone, including the trustee. So it is something that needs to be paid. So we're bringing it to finance to see if what your wishes are, how you would like to handle paying it. It's $8,500 a year, or if you wanted to do it for 4 years, it's a big savings of $18,000.
So, Mayor, I guess I just ask you how we paid for it in the past. This obviously isn't the first time.
It's the commission.
We paid it out of the commission, then I would assume that's how we're going to continue to do so, if that's how we've done it in the past.
We almost have to. The real question for you, first of all, to approve doing that, and then do you want to do the annual or do you want to do the 4?
We'll get to that in a second here. Commissioner Alford, you recognize?
Well, I, listen to the mayor, I think it'd be beneficial if we go ahead and do the 4 years. We're gonna save a bunch of money in the long run.
Oh, I'm all for saving money, yeah.
So I'd like to make a motion, we go at 4 years.
We have a motion to go to all 4 years with the trustees' bond issue, and I have a second from Commissioner Cry.
And I assume to
Discussion?
pay it out of 599, right?
Yeah.
Make that part of the motion, please.
Yeah,
We'll
it'll
make
be
that
paid-
out $5.99.
It'll be paid for out of the county commission's account, line item 599. Add that to the motion. You good with that?
I'll go with that.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Passes 4-0.
That's all I have. I think everything else on the agenda. Renee.
One quick question on my, for
Renee.
me. Last week, I heard you mention that you closed on the property behind the
Yes, sir.
annex. So, and the other part you said in the past is that you're gonna hold off on bidding out until the economy is a little bit better or something like that. But we
Yes.
did budget to redo the parking lot. What's your time frame on that?
Well,
Not
our
holding it up.
resolution says it can't happen till around the first of the year. But my big concern is anything like that. It's really a bad time to be doing them. So, but we'll look at it toward the end of the calendar year, first of next calendar year, and see what it looks like. Maybe
So
go
that's
ahead
what I
and
was kind of getting. If you need us to change that so you go forward with it now, because we're in a better time of the year to do projects like that versus January where it's cold, rainy, and all that. I don't
Well-
want to I don't want to tie your hands to that if it's going to hinder you. But if you wanted to wait because you think the prices are going down, I understand that as well.
well, it is a bad time, but while you're talking about it, some direction, I guess.
Yeah.
Do you want a dozer brought in and remove the concrete pad that's up against the building, or do you want it leveled up to match the concrete pad? And are you familiar with what I'm talking about? There's a
just-
concrete pad along the side of the building. You know, it's level. And then the unlevelness comes after you go off of that pad. It would take some fill in, but probably you don't want to take that pad out, I wouldn't think.
Mr. Alford.
Being one that parks back there quite often and have to walk up the hill, but that's okay. I would leave the concrete pad, cause it costs a fortune to move that concrete
I
pad
would
out
too.
there. I would
Yeah.
just suggest that we just pave it down and level it off best we can, cause really it doesn't get that much action other than some of the people that work in the annex. So
Yeah, it's mostly those employees
Yeah,
down
I
there.
don't part with it. But
So if we level it, do you expect it to be level with the concrete pad or just a flat area and then you go up on the concrete pad?
I'd
'Cause
leave
it's
it-
high.
Personally, I'd leave it just like it is, cause it's gonna cost a fortune to level it.
I agree. That's why I'm,
Mr. Cry.
I would think from the concrete pad to the street or that area,
Slope
grazing
it.
area, you can slope it down
Okay.
like a sloped roof.
that's what we'll look at doing. And back to your timeline thing, the only problem I have with doing it now is we ask everybody to hold off on capital projects because of cash flow. This is actually paid out of capital projects, if I
Right.
remember right.
Yeah.
So we could do it if that's what you all want to do. We'll go ahead and get estimates at least, see what they look like, bring them back to you. Probably won't have them for your next one, but
Yeah.
soon, if that's your all's desire.
Sounds good to me. Commissioner Cry, Commissioner
I
Alford.
would think about 3 truckloads of gravel. Sufficient.
Mm.
Slope it down.
I would think bring in the pug or whatever they call it to get it up to where it could be paved on is what we'll look at doing. And it's just a question of how many people we can get interested. I don't know any hollers. But I'm more concerned about getting some pavers to give us a paving estimate on it. But we'll look at doing that over the next couple of months. Then,
Thank you,
okay?
Mayor. All right, going to our budget amendments. Budget amendment number 1, we have, let me get this to where I can read it properly.
Renee.
From the county mayor,
Renee.
requester, he's increasing revenue, he's increasing expenses of $4,597.68. So it's money coming in. This is an insurance recovery for the water damage or something like that. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Raper. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. There's their documentation. Check. Next budget amendment, county mayor, he's decreasing expenses and he's increasing expenses. He's going from the same, well, it's 2 different accounts. He's going from our account over to 707 and his, this is for insurance deductible. Okay.
This is an insurance
Do I have a
deductible.
motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Davis. I have a second from Commissioner Raper. Any further discussion?
And just so you all know, this
Yeah.
is roughly a $10,000 expense. There is one more coming, but we will have already met the deductible. So We pay this 5,000 like this amendment does, put it together with the $4,500 one that we got from the insurance company, that pays the flooring and everything that's occurred so far, and then we'll have one small one to come later, but it won't have a deductible.
So that we met our deductible on this project.
Right.
All right, I have a motion, I have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no, passes 5-0. Next budget amendment from the county mayor. He is decreasing the fund balance for $46,730 and increasing expenses in, Fund 128, that's the American Rescue. And you see that the description is an increase in ambulance service. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Davis. Any further discussion? Mayor, do you want, the price of the ambulance just went up and they notified you, I assume?
Yeah,
And you
gosh,
get-
I've slept since then. I think this is the next big one that's waiting on the chip. I think from memory, we're amending the budget so that when that chip comes in and they're ready, we'll have the money. But it did go up. Those big ones have gone up tremendously, which is kind of what I was talking about with the paving. But back on that line, while I'm thinking of it, the van should be here in September. This big one would be not long afterwards if the chip issue gets resolved. But like I told somebody the other day, EMS committee or somebody, this year's budgeted ambulance, they told us 2 years. So if we order it today, it's 2 years, and you're gonna have this same issue when it comes in.
So it's
Because
gonna be more than what we budgeted.
nobody will lock in prices anymore, and plus 2 years out. So,
Well, luckily we have American Rescue to help out with a little bit of this.
that's true. The only thing is, 2 years from now puts us about the timeline of American Rescue to be ending, so it's starting to get scary with some of those things.
22, 24, 20, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, that's where we're at. That will take care of this one, and I think we have amended somewhere in here the other one so that when it gets here. But both of them have gone up, and nobody will lock in prices now. Now, the fire truck did, because they had to make it, and they locked it in, my understanding. Hopefully, we ain't got it yet. I don't want to brag too soon, but I think it's pretty much locked in. But these ambulances, they won't lock in. They won't tell you an exact date, just 2 years out is roughly what they're saying.
Must be
And-
nice.
You know, you're
Question.
talking about supply chain issues in those letter requests. I saw an ad in Indiana. It was from an Indiana county that was running an ad in some publication asking for companies who manufacture ambulances, that they're looking for more companies. This is a nationwide problem. It's, again, part of the flood the economy with money, and everybody across the country is trying to buy ambulances and fire trucks and those kinds of things, and you just can't get them. It's ridiculous.
Commissioner Alford.
Just a question, this fund balance, you're taking 46.7, was gonna be out of a fund balance budget?
Sorry, it's out of the ARP, and you're talking about ARP later on, but
Yeah, I'm talking about, we moved it into ARP, or is that
No.
47?
no,
Sorry.
there's
Was it
things
there
like
to
the fire
start with?
truck that are budgeted.
Right,
This was not budgeted, but we left 600,000, I believe, is undesignated so far, so that's the fund balance, and this will take 46,000 of that 600,000-ish figure.
well, I understand that, but will that 47 go back in their fund balance, or is it staying in our fund balance?
It's expense.
It's coming out of the ARP fund balance to be spent on the
Okay,
ambulance.
that fund balance is ARP fund.
It is, it's
Okay,
128 fund,
I
right?
saw fund balance,
Yeah.
I was thinking. wait
It's
a
the
minute.
fund balance of I wouldn't be taking out the other one if I didn't have to. It's the fund balance of ARP. Everybody understands that.
Yeah.
Because we left a lot of money undesignated so far in the ARP fund, if you were looking at it. And, you know, the $1 million truck's funded and ambulance is funded, but this is taking some money out of the ARP and putting it for the
Yeah, I
ambulance.
understand, I just saw that
So
fund
what's-
balance, I wanna
Yeah.
make sure. Okay,
Pardon the question, Mayor, so what does that make the total cost of this? You don't have to do that now. Lori, if you'll remind me to ask that later. I mean, they went up $46,730, pretty exact number. What percentage of an increase was that? So you kind of get the gist of what's going on the timeline. But Lori and I'll get to that later. You don't have to know that. So we have a motion, we have a second on this amendment. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed say no, passes 5-0. All right, that pays for the ambulance. Next is a finance amendment. We are decreasing expenses from 599 and going over to the sheriff's legal department. Oh, this is also for deductible for lawsuit. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? It's presented. I have a motion from Commissioner Raper. I have a second from Commissioner Cry. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Next amendment, there you see. Yes? All right, so we can take those as a package. All right, before we do that, Lori and I didn't get a chance to talk because I was gone, but remind me to ask about this lawsuit, Greg Godwin, later on. All right, the next two we're going to take is a donation to the juvenile court, Vicky Towns Department. We're going to take those both amendments together. Understand? All right. So do I have a motion to accept the two amendments together? I have a motion from Commissioner Davis. I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And we appreciate those donations. And you see the check there, scrolls through, juvenile, the second check.
While you're thrumming through, Mylan,
Yeah.
page 12 through 46 is Southeast Community Corrections grant.
Yes.
If you recall, at budget time, the state didn't know if they were going to continue the program, Southeast Community Corrections. At the end of the day, they have approved it, and we've gotten the signed contracts. Actually, it's a 3-year contract from memory. Is that right, Renee? 3-year contract, so we know we'll have it for at least the next 3 years. And this is taking this year's amount and putting it in budget form to create them a budget. We've already been paying salaries out of this budget before it's created, but it divides it up. It's a lot more than it was in the past, about double. What's doubled is there will be a lot of contracted mental health evaluation type stuff in this program from here on. If you recall, Southeast Community Corrections has always been about state prisoners on, not on parole, but out on in community corrections. The program oversees these people, and they've agreed to continue it, but to change it to a mental health evaluation situation. So even though we're getting twice as much money, I say we're getting it. It's a state program. All we're doing is it funnels through us.
Yeah,
You
we're
follow
just
me?
doing the back office piece.
Yeah, all we do is pay the bills for them and so forth. But at least the program's continuing. It's always been a really good program, but it is changing tremendously. If you look in that thing, half of it, 334,000, says other contracted services, and I think that's pretty much, I don't know if they have contracts yet, but probably going to be a Hiwassee Mental Health contract. So their emphasis is changing dramatically.
I agree with that. So, since this is 3 years, we didn't put this in the 22-23 budget, but the 23-24 to 24-25 budgets, it'll be part of the budget request.
We'll know to do it next year, right?
All right, very good. We have a motion to accept the amendment as presented. I have a motion from Commissioner Alford. I have a second from Commissioner Davis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Thank you, Mayor. And you got all of the supporting documentation. So you got to scroll. Still scrolling? Lots of scrolling. I've never scrolled so much in my life. I wonder if we can get the Cliff Notes version of all this documentation next time. Nothing.
It's a very long state contract, that's for sure.
Who did the gentleman who ran that department, did he retire? Is that the one on the community corrections?
Gary Connors retired last year, and
Yeah.
the person that took his place, everybody started thinking the program's going away, so
They
they
did.
started jumping ship, and yeah.
All right, next amendment is on page 47. It's EMS. Everybody there? 47. I know. Yes. That's some good scrolling. Touche, Commissioner Alford. All right, page 47, we have an amendment from EMS, $1,865.25. Increase in his revenue, increase in his expenses, so it's money coming in, and to move, this is an insurance check, VFIS. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Davis. I have a second from Commissioner Cry. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. And there you see the VFIS supporting documentation. Next amendment is from EMS, 165,000 even, insurance recovery. And it's going into his line 790, other equipment. Move VFS checkman from the salvage of ambulance 504. Is this the ambulance that was on Emmons Street?
Yes, and
Okay.
I believe that other amendment was to finish this check to replace that ambulance. I believe is the correct,
Oh.
putting him to
how
the
about-
certain ambulances.
Yeah, okay. It all goes to the same thing, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion to accept this amendment as presented from Commissioner Cry. We have a second from Commissioner Davis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. $165,000. There's been multiple checks on that ambulance, right?
I don't know, that might be the only one. That's where they basically ended up totaling it. And you got two because one's for towing and then the 165 is what they gave us for the value of the ambulance. But yet it's cost 200 and something to actually replace it. So that was the other amendment.
All right, next amendment is 9,000. They want to move from, in their account, from 790 other equipment to 451 uniforms. You see the description there, money's being moved to cover uniform costs. We already ordered uniforms from somebody with PO that ended up being closed at the end of the school. So they already, it went back into fund balance or but they budgeted for uniforms. That doesn't make any sense. We're not having to retie that money. All right. So, Lori, when we get together, remind me to look at line 790 after this $9,000 comes out. All right. Do I have a motion from Commissioner Davis to accept the amendment as presented? I have a second from Commissioner Alford. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Moving on to the next budget amendment, still with the EMS, $1,105. He's decreasing the expenses from $499 other supplies and putting it in data processing. This money is being due to Alda Tech, the EMS. Oh, so the scheduling software company decided to go up on them for $1,000. All right. Do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Raper. I have a second from Commissioner Davis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Everybody's going up on it. EMS again. All right. They are decreasing their fund balance by $28,963.27 undesignated fund balance, and they are putting it in uniforms. So we just approved $9,000 to go in uniforms, and now they want 28,000 more.
The other one was to put it in the appropriate line, but this 28,000 is where the POs were too
Oh,
old. We killed the POs. It went into the fund balance. Now they're bringing them
All
back.
right, so they had POs in the last budget, and now they're bringing them back out. All right. So you closed them out. All right. I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented from Commissioner Davis. I have a second from Commissioner Raper. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Next budget amendment. After you get through, somebody did some handwritten math there. I like it. All right. We are at the Bradley County Sheriff's Office. Are these services rendered? Oh. No, this is a grant. All right.
Right.
So he's increasing his revenue and he's increasing his revenue. I was going to say that's a nice trick.
It's a grant coming in, so they're increasing revenue, and then they're increasing all of those expense line items. So
Yeah.
that second word revenue should be changed to
So-
expense.
So where on the second box there, where it has the box around increase, obviously, I'm sorry, where it says revenue on the second box before you get into that itemization, that should say obviously expense.
Expense.
Those one. And these are 100, 200 series, so there's salaries and some travel and some other stuff on the grant. So this is not a new grant, right? No. All right. Thank you. Motion to accept the amendment as presented. I have a motion from Commissioner Davis. I have a second from Commissioner Cry. Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. So that gets their money into their grant. It says here from October 21 to September 26. Okay. All right. Bradley County Sheriff's Office, $891,575, increase in revenue, increase in expenses. They got that one right. And they're putting, where's the description? Joseph Grant. Oh, this is the one we talked about, not too long ago. Sorry. Yeah. So do I have a motion to accept the amendment? I have a motion from Commissioner Cry. I have a second from Commissioner Davis. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. Mayor, did you have anything on that?
No, that's,
All right.
you'll see that COSIP grant show up a lot over the next 3 years, and it's a big figure. Most of it is contracted out to other entities. Most of it's not going through Bradley County. There's the people that's renting the space out there, by the way, finally got that lease signed.
Oh, good.
They will rent it out of this grant and several things. What do they call the program? There's, anyway, you'll hear it or the other title a lot. It's a very big grant, but it's very, very confusing. That's what I was telling you.
And that's also state and federal, right? Yeah. Some of it's state and some of it's federal. The first one that we did was federal. Anyway, I don't want to confuse the issue because that's what I do. Page 59, everybody. Bradley County Sheriff's Office, $65,300. He's increasing his revenue and he's increasing expenses. And litter grant. So this is the annual litter grant. All right. Do I have a motion to accept the motion? I'm sorry, do I have a motion to accept the amendment as presented? I have a motion from Commissioner Cry. I have a second from Commissioner Raper. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. And there is the details of the grant that we get every year to pick up litter. Next to our services rendered, thank you. So the next two we'll take as a package on services rendered. And you scroll down there to there. All right, there. Yep. All right, so we're gonna take those last two as a package. A motion to accept the two remaining amendments together. I have a motion from Commissioner Davis. I have a second from Commissioner Raper. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say no. Passes 5-0. That concludes the budget amendments. Going back to our agenda. Back over here, minimize that here. All right, then we get into American Rescue Plan Act funds. Commissioner Alford, you had asked to get an update on American Rescues and start the discussion. So what Lori and I did was basically this first sheet. I'm looking at this page right here. Did you get a copy? Basically, of the quote-unquote famous buckets, right? Premium pay, affordable housing, water, sewer, broadband, and COVID response, and the associated amount that we passed by resolution. Put a little check mark there because we're kind of done with premium pay and affordable housing, water, sewer, broadband, and COVID response. Have yet to be completed in its totality, I guess you'll say. But the note here, like we said in sewer, this commission earmarked $750,000 for repair of sewers. And as the mayor mentioned a few minutes ago, out of the COVID response bucket, $1 million has been budgeted already in the 22-23 budget for the 100-foot ladder truck.
And also, from memory, also the EMS truck, I believe, the new one.
Yeah, I did that from memory, which I should never do.
Okay.
But I think also EMS, when I got to this, I was going to ask you. And I think also the library fix-up we did.
Yeah, small amount, yep.
Is on there. So that gives you an idea of what's kind of done up to this point. I guess, Mayor, the other thing I was going to ask is we're supposed to get the second allotment. Any word on that?
This month, they told us to start looking for emails where they will start notifying you, hey, starting on this date, you can start requesting. We've not gotten that email yet. We expect it to be around the end of August because that's when we got the first trench, so.
So next week or two.
Probably.
Very good. All right, the next page is from the trustee's office, and I thought this kind of explained it fairly well. Remember, go down to Fund 128. That's where all of the ARP money is. Excuse me. And Commissioner Offer, we'll get to you here in a second. So the original allotment of money, $10,499,550, basically $10.5 million. The receipts, that's basically how much interest it's made over the year, which Disbursements, that's basically how much money's been paid out of that fund. And this is as of June 30th. So if there's anything that's been paid out of it in July and August, that obviously wouldn't be a part of this report, but this is fairly good. And then this tells you the remaining balance, $3,686,443.39. The mayor will be quick to tell you that some of that money's already been earmarked. Don't think that you have that money to spend.
Yeah,
But
please look in your budget in the 128 fund, and it will show what he's talking about here. Plus, it'll show what's budgeted this current year, and then it will show you what the projected fund
right,
balance
I
of
just
that.
didn't have time. It was
I
in the
know.
budget, and I can,
But
but
it-
at the
it-
next finance meeting, I'll have that itemized. But that kind of tells you right there how we did in the past year with respects to the art money. But do not think that we have $3.6 million to spend. We've already earmarked, like I said, that $1 million for the library, the truck, whatever. But Commissioner Alford, you wanted to chat about the art money. You're recognized.
Well, I just want to chat not so much about this art money, but the next phase
Well,
of the art money coming in.
Okay.
I think it would benefit us to maybe have finance start meeting or put out something to commissioners to start seeing where some of their major projects might be. For example, I know we want to use a lot of that money for lights. Somebody's mentioned lights at Minnesfield, places like that. I think it would be good if we go ahead and start thinking about where we might want to spend some of that 10 million that we're supposed to get in. I don't know that it's obligated anywhere as of yet, is it, Mayor?
Well, kind of
It-
is. That's the
It
bucket
kind of
system.
is. In general terms, it's obligated for broadband, water, sewer, and then 2 million of it is in that undesignated area that you all declared, and that's where we're doing the fire trucks from. So it
Covers-
is. That doesn't mean it can't be moved, and it's not actually budgeted, but you've approved the buckets. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I know the buckets. I'm talking about the next.
Now, the buckets were
The buckets
included
is
in
for the
that.
total
Okay.
21 million.
Yeah.
That's, they see, Commissioner Alford, see the 21 million?
Yeah,
The
21
buckets
million.
encapsulate all 21 million.
But
Yeah.
I do think it would benefit us to start discussing where we might want to
I
spend some more
wholeheartedly
money
agree. I
somewhere.
think it is time,
Next
because,
thing you know, we won't be able to do it.
right. I mean, we're gonna get a report next week from, Commissioner Davis on broadband and where that's going. We're working with, COA Utilities right now on some water projects for the 4th and the 6th district. Not a huge amount, but I think about 500,000 with that. So some of this has already been earmarked and tagged. Sewer, I don't know about that one. So we're gonna be getting it, but I absolutely agree. Lori, if you don't mind, at the next work session, August 20th, we'll start that discussion. And Commissioner Alford, we'll just basically say, now's the time to start thinking about, especially that COVID response, because you got $2 million. The ladder truck is, we budgeted 1 million. Mayor, if it goes over $1 million,
It should be right at it.
I mean, everything else is going up. Why not the ladder truck, right? The EMS ambulance, and then the repairs or the fixing up of the library. That should give us, like, if everybody agreed, that's a big old if, that we wanted lights as an example at Menace Road, there should be some money in there. But I agree with you that we should start the discussion. Yeah, and well, we should, and I look forward to Commissioner Davis's report on broadband and what the state decided to do or not do, because we, other than premium pay, that's the largest bucket. We were really aggressive on broadband.
The others, let's say it's 600,000, because I think it's roughly, in your budget, it shows that fund balance. You can start thinking about how you want to spend that, but keep in mind, you don't just have, it's not a wish list for ARP. Remember, go back a year ago or 2 years ago, however long it's been, it's got to be this area, you see what I'm saying? And that's why we designated so much for broadband and water and sewer. So it's not just a wish list of expenses. Now, we do have some of that 2 million. Let's say in round figures, you did $1 million for the fire truck, 200,000 for the ambulance, that's 1.2. I think at the end of the day, it ended up leaving 600 and something thousand. That's truly a wish list for you all. That's why I left it in the fund balance, so you could address it later. You make amendments how you want to spend that. But the other 10 million isn't wide open like that. It's designated for broadband or water and sewer and those kinds of things. That's why we put them in those buckets. Now, you can move the buckets. You may have 2 million for water and 3 million for sewer, and you want to switch it. Or you may want to take it all out of sewer and put it all in water. You can still do that, but it's going to have to stay in those categories to be approved for ARP funding, except for that 2 million. And that's how we're able to do the fire truck and the ambulance and the library and a few little things like that.
Commissioner Cry.
Out of that 2 million, we're roughly showing 800,000, probably less. What are our restrictions, capital improvements, existing facilities, i.e. school track?
Well, don't forget, schools have their own big bucket of money.
I understand.
That's the only reason we don't do the schools. I mean, but back to ours, let's take the word school out. That money in that 2 million that's not designated yet, one-time capital expenditures, it's up to you all. I mean, but I wouldn't mix it with schools since they have their own designated money that comes to schools. Well, yeah, of course they got more needs. I'm not begrudging them. I'm just saying don't mix those two. They've got a bucket, a huge bucket of money that they can and will do stuff like that. And then in ours, and if you just stay with the 2 million minus the fire truck, minus the ambulance, those you can spend on any one-time capital expenditures. That'll be up to you all. That's why I did not budget it. I only budgeted the fire truck and ambulance. So as you all get agreement on how you want to spend the rest of that. But I'm just saying, don't start pulling money from, say, broadband and putting it in that 2 million, because the 2 million is all we've got on that subject. And that's, I call it COVID response when I did the bucket, but it's basically how you want to spend it.
But we have up to 10 million that we can spend any way we want, right?
Well, you could go back, if you want to start over, you could go back and change it from 2 to 10, but you've got to take it from the broadband bucket,
Right.
the water bucket, the sewer bucket,
I
because
didn't
you've
mean
put it in those buckets. You see what I'm saying? And so
I see.
I'm trying to keep it simple and
I
keep you
know.
on the 600,000. But you could change your mind now and say, well, the sewer's not going to work out. We've got 3.5 million there. Let's move it over to the COVID response. Now you've got to go through that declaration again, like we did with the 2 million. But 2 million is what we had in that bucket, so that's the amount that you
That's
declared.
replacement, right?
But you could change that amount.
Right, your report next week is gonna be important.
We were kind of waiting to see what happened with broadband, waiting on that grant. What's the other one?
Sewer,
Let me I'll confuse you even more. You know the bucket that he talked about for months? That's the one that we are working on right now, because we've got a deadline coming up of October, is that right? November 1, so the end of October. Remember the bucket that he was pushing months ago? Well, that deadline is coming up. You know, we went through the process. We had to do a formal contract with the development district on that. And we're meeting with the utilities. They're working on their plans. And at some point, they will give us the estimated cost of their plans. Then the first thing that will involve you is I will bring you a recommendation on how to divvy up that bucket. Now, that's not part of this 20 million. That's an additional $9 million, I believe.
all right,
But it has to go to utilities. So when they present us the plan, and we're getting close in the next couple of weeks, I believe, we'll be getting their estimated costs. And Savannah has a small one, Charleston Calhoun has a small one, Cleveland Utilities will have one, Ocoee Utilities will have one, and Hiawassee Utilities Commission will have one. So the development district will take all of those and put all of those plans together, and that will be our application that goes to TDEC. That money we don't actually get until we present the plan and everything to TDEC, and they look at it and bless it and then send us the money. But when they send us the money, we've already approved how we're spending it. So when we get those estimates from those different utilities, 5, I believe, we'll come to you with a recommendation. Okay, here's 9 million, and here's how, based on their plans they've presented, we suggest doing it. And when you all approve that, then the development district puts it together as an application to TDEC. It goes to TDEC, and then TDEC, like I said, will bless it, and I assume at that point will send us money separate from this $20 million. I know it's confusing.
I get it.
Uh, But if it works out like it should, now that one's really complicated because it's going through TDEC with a lot more strings. It's not coming to us with general guidelines of how to spend it. We have to present the plan of how we're going to spend it before they give it to us. But we'll be doing that in the next couple of months. That's where our time will probably be spent in the near future is getting that. Remember I told you there's 6 buckets, but there's really a 7th one coming? Well, that's it.
Yeah.
And I call it the Dennis Epperson bucket because he talked about it for so long.
We'll
but,
officially name it the Commissioner
we're making
Epperson bucket.
progress on that one. That 9 million won't be something Bradley County's doing per se, but it's money we're funneling out to the utilities, and you all have to approve it, of course.
That's where the state changed their mind in the middle of the river and decided to let the utilities
Yep.
in on the game a little bit.
Yep. There's some going in that one. Some of it goes to cities also.
So, yeah, Commissioner Hopper, please.
You might at that time, especially on the sewer one, until we see their plans, but I'll be hypothetical. Ocoee Utilities is probably going to present us a plan out of that $9 million bucket, this other bucket, to upgrade sewer. And if that's approved, if that's an amount that you all approve at some point, that will upgrade their system. That's a utility expense. But you may still want to, out of our bucket, run sewer lines. You see what I'm saying? You may want to do more. And then in Cleveland Utilities bucket, I don't know if they're going to be requesting upgrades to their facilities or if it's going to all be line money. But you may possibly have 2 different buckets to run water lines. Remember you said you wanted to run water lines all over Bradley County if you could? Well, we may have part of the 9 and what's in that other bucket, 2 million? So you may have $5 or $6 million for water lines when all's said and done. I suggest we get past this TDEC bucket, get it approved because it's got strict deadlines and they got lots of, we get it approved, get the application sent in, get it approved, and then we start looking if we want to move some of these buckets around. You probably want to at that point. I'm not going to dictate it, don't get me wrong. I got the buckets, I got it divided up so that the feds know in general terms what we're doing, but you can still move it around and this other bucket may affect it. But I don't know for sure how much of this last bucket is going to go for utility upgrades or actual water lines. Now, Cleveland Utilities indicated to us, didn't they, Adam, that our part of that bucket that they get would be for water lines. So that's good news because I had expected it to be upgrades to the facilities and then we'd use our other bucket for water lines. So we may have 2 buckets on water lines, which will be good news at the end of the day.
You still have the floor.
Well, keep in mind, and that's the way it sounds like it's going to work. It's because we met with them last week, and it doesn't sound like we haven't gotten their plan yet, but it doesn't sound like their plan's going to include upgrades. I think their plan is to take Cleveland's bucket that they get and do the upgrades, and then our part of our bucket would be for water lines. So I think that's going to be good news. What you want to hear. Well, water lines. Now, sewer lines with Cleveland Utilities is a whole nother subject because they can't run sewer lines. So let's don't even talk sewer. That'll really muddy the water. But I think it's going to work out what we want in water lines. I think we'll get to use our portion of that bucket for water lines instead of upgrades. Now, the way that works, the state requires them to do certain things first, and they must, on that, what do you call that, scorecard thing? If the scorecard, this one is totally different. TDEC is requiring so much, and TDEC requires scorecard thing. If their scorecard said that they had to upgrade their facilities before they could do anything else, then we got to give it to them to upgrade their facilities. But it sounds like they scored, interrupt me if I say it wrong, but I think they must have scored so well with their scorecard that what little upgrades they have to do, they'll get done with the Cleveland money, and then we can use ours for water lines. That's the way it's looking, which is good news.
At the end of the day, it's all going to get done, though.
Sir?
Yeah. Commissioner Hopper.
Yeah. They have, let's say all of the money in this bucket that we're talking about now is for water lines. They have the map of where the needs are, and we will pick and choose where we want to fund. You all will. My only input here will be the amount. I'll do the divvy, and then it'll come to you all. You'll approve the divvy, and then you'll pick which, am I saying that fairly accurate? You'll pick that, and then it goes into the application that Development District will do, and they'll send it to the state. And in this case, the application is really just a bless it, please, and send it to us, because they want to see that plan first. So yeah, you will get to pick. If there's water line needs in northeast, it'll be on a map, and you say, and they'll, that costs 300,000. Maybe they're getting 2 million. You see what I'm saying? So you'll pick those areas in. Yep. But when they send the map to you, on that map will be the areas that meets what he's talking about, and so you'll have to choose off of that map. Does that make sense? That map will come to you all before anyway, and I don't see that happening. Now, it clearly does say you can't use it on there for future development. It's got to be for existing water people. So that don't mean it can't go down a road to get to Mylan's house, and it passes a lot of vacant land that may be developable in the future, but it's got to be serving people that need water. TDEC's got those kind of restrictions in it. But they know that when they present the plan, when they show the map. Development District knows that when they're putting together the application. So I just know enough to look stupid sometimes. But all of that is really looking good on the water subject. Hiwassee Utilities is a total upgrade. Let me tell you how Hiwassee Utilities is working. We got $9 million. Let's say at the end of the day, we have 2 million that we designate to Hiwassee. I'm just making that up because I'm not sure yet. But it may be 1 point something. Let's say it's 1.5 million. Mattman County is already matching. So, because we're a joint Hiwassee Utility Commission, so they put of their money 1.5 million to Hiwassee Community. We put 1.5 million. Hiwassee Utilities gets $3 million. And probably how that's going to work is they're just going to send their 1.5 million to us. We'll put it in our budget, and then we'll fund it all to Hiwassee Utilities Commission, or vice versa. But more than likely, it'll come to us because they're sort of the opinion, hey, we'll just send the money to Bradley County and let them worry about it. And at the end of the day, the Hiwassee Utilities will get a decent chunk of money then. Does that make sense? Charleston Calhoun is what you're talking about. They have they're going to be participating. They have something that's on their scorecard they have to do. We don't get to pick water lines in their case because they've got to do the scorecard thing first. Is that not right, Adam? And they have a need that the state says, okay, but if you get money, you got to use it here first. Yeah. That's one of the things the state wants you to have in place, and they don't have. Savannah now, who's on the west side? Nobody. Savannah, if you're familiar with Savannah, they come from 58 Highway into Bradley. They don't have much in Bradley, but the extreme western part of the county, they do. Theirs is all water lines. It won't be a lot, but they'll get a small chunk of this money to do water lines on the extreme west. But again, it's got to be where it benefits their system and that kind of thing. That's a requirement from the state. So at the end of the day, on water lines, we'll get western. We'll get upgrades at Hiwassee, which Hiwassee benefits us, Mattman County, Cleveland Utilities, everybody. And then if you're in the Cleveland Utilities area, there'll be, I think, at the end of the day, out of one of the two buckets, a lot of water lines run. Is that as clear as mud?
Yeah.
It's confusing, I realize. And do what? Yeah, my coffee is black.
Well, Mayor, I guess the question: what's the next step? I mean,
the next step is they will come to us with, here's our plans. Make up something hypothetical. Hiwassee Utility says we need 2.5 million to do this. Ocoee says we need 3 million to do this. All 5 of them will present that, and I'm gonna say, well, look, we've got 9 million, so yours is gonna go to 2.7. Yours, you know what I'm saying? Well, most of them are water lines, so they can, it's in linear feet, so they can cut the amount to match the feet they
Well,
do.
I just
And
asked-
once they do that, we'll bring it to you to bless the overall bucket division. Then they will go back and they'll match their plans to the amount that's been approved. It may be exactly, House Utilities will probably be right on the money because they're already in the bidding phase. I mean, these utilities are moving. They're in the bidding phase. The others aren't that far along. But once they know that for sure, then they'll match the plan with the amount that we say they're getting. Then the development district will take the 5 plans and put together in one big application and
That
get it
comes
sent to
out.
the state and meet that deadline. So your first thing will be to approve the division, and I expect that to happen, second meeting in September, maybe. It almost needs to. If they get it to us in the next week or two, like we ask them, we'll probably have the division ready for you the second meeting in September. And then it'll be up to the development district to get it in over the next 30 days to the state.
Yeah, they don't want to put them at risk. All right, very good. Thank you, Mayor. Anything else on that? I just wanted to, that gives us a summation of the art money, current and the future plans. So we're gonna be talking about art quite a bit here in the next couple of months, especially on the utility side. All right, going back to our agenda, the next item is pay issues. Commissioner Cry, I believe you asked to put this on. Pay issues. At the beginning of the budget year, we had the whole 27 paycheck thing, some confusion, but I think that's all been worked out.
I think it's been worked out. I didn't.
Oh, okay. I did. All right, if there's anything else, our next meeting will be September 6th.
It'll actually be before your first commission meeting of the new commissioners.
I know,
it'll
so
be
we'll
that
still
day.
have intact Commissioner Alford, Commissioner Cry, myself.
Just be you 3 that day.
And you guys can eat popcorn and watch it.
Well, yeah, I guess 3 could still vote, but it'll just be you 3. You'll have to agree.
Well, if it turns out there's not a lot of budget amendments and there's there's no work for us to do, then I'll let everybody know and we'll put it towards.
Might be good to put it off till the next Monday,
If-
that way.
But right now, we're gonna schedule it for September 6th in case there's something, so that you guys plan accordingly. Commissioner Cry.
What, the election commission, the favorite topic today, they overspent their budget, as I understand, $16,000. Then they chose, instead of taking that line item and employee line item and shifting it back to cover that loss, they chose to give a bonus to people. What is it worthy of consideration at this point to send them a nice letter, to send the chairman of the election commission a nice letter, since the banner saw fit to say they're gonna do it again this year, in all likelihood, that we should put them on notice. That is a no-no in our opinion. I'd just like to pitch that out, and if it's, looks like it'll pass at this point, I'd like to make it as a motion. To send them a letter, council, suggesting they practice financial management according to their budget.
All right, so let's do this. I'll get with Lori, tomorrow and we'll draft a letter, and bring it to the next finance committee for your approval, or for the commission approval. And basically, what we basically want to say is, you have a budget, and the expectation is that you follow that budget. If you need to make amendments, you know the process for making amendments. If you have an emergency, we have a process for hearing your emergencies. But other than that, the expectation is that you stay within the budget that was appropriated through resolution. You had an opportunity to appeal, and you also have an opportunity to litigate if you chose to do so. Is that what you're looking for?
That's exactly it.
And if I could mention something along those lines, what bothers me, and these cameras are live, if I have a full-time position line and John Doe is drawing a salary out of that full-time position, they're getting benefits. But if I have a part-time line and I'm paying Renee and Adam out of my part-time line, they better not be working more than an average of 29 hours a week. That part of Obama law is still out there. The reason they went over is they were working those people. They might not have been paying their benefits, but they were working them full-time hours. That
Sorry,
is
that's the issue we
a
had with EMS.
big issue, not with me, but with higher,
Yeah.
And I don't want to say something to trigger that problem, but that's what you could have. If somebody came in and said, well, I worked 29 hours, more than 29 hours every day, every week last year. Not my fault they did, but they probably are. That's why those lines went over. They're not getting insurance and stuff, and I understand that, but the Obama law says if you work over 29 hours consistently, then we got to pay those benefits. So they could go back on us. And I'm saying this, please help me, because I don't like talking, but that is an issue that we all need to be concerned about. And there's plenty of money in the election workers line, has nothing to do with the elections. The election line is okay, the election workers line. But it's, if you look in their budget, it's full-time, one person with benefits, and part-time. And that part-time has no benefits, therefore they can't work but those many hours. Anybody, that's,
Commissioner Pryor, you wanted to say something again?
I totally agree with Commissioner Blake's wording. I think that's fine. I'm just hell bent on making sure that it's documented on paper in case it's done again, because there really should be a very low tolerance level for this stuff. That's my point.
And it, yeah, I appreciate you bringing it up. And as you heard me testify, I talk about, what can we do? I mean, hopefully our legislators up in Nashville will help us out with some litigation to help us with those elected officials, department heads that go over their budget and give the county commission or any legislative body, city council, whatever, some recourse on that. But as of right now, I don't believe we have any. I may be wrong, but they come into session in January, and I'm sure they'll start working on this. Anything else? Seeing none? Oh, Commissioner Albert.
no, they only have her position, and then they have one full-time line, one. But there are 3 people over there on a daily basis. Do the math. The letter ought to have a sentence or two in there that reminds them that part-time people cannot work consistently more than 29 hours a week, according to the Obama law, whatever that correct terminology is.
Well, before the, yeah, but yeah, yeah, and before the letter is sent over, this full commission will vote on that letter to send it over there.
Put it on the work session.
Very good. Anything else? Seeing none, we are